Well, one of the things that we did to optimize our page was actually optimize the images that we had to make sure that any unnecessary space was eliminated. We did that to a number of objects. Obviously, something like Dracula Untold was just really easy to bring down considerably. But there's this business with all these other little guys over here that are seriously increasing the download time of our page, right? Because if we just start with these movies over here, which are just the little guys that we have down here, all our movie posters. Actually, why don't I do it by time even? We see that they're scattered all over the place, and well, actually, that's not the best. Let me go by image type and timeline. Let's see, start time. We sort of see how um, as these images are going down the line over here, we start at 1 second, and these guys are just taking. I mean, individually they're no big deal, but when you sort of look at it all the way down the line, these are just a huge chunk of time over here. So, not to mention that, but they're heavy. They're images, so they're pretty heavy weight. You know what I mean, as far as bandwidth movement goes. So we have to do something about this. We've already done the business of optimizing them. So besides optimizing them, we can't do anything more to these images without starting to degrade their image quality. So, what's our choice? Now, actually, even before I go there, when we look at page speed and we analyze it, it gives us a little information on some things. One of on some things on how to optimize our page. One of the options it gives us, it says this inline small JavaScript, unrelated to the photos thing, but when you read more about it, it brings you to this mobile analysis and page speed insights. Has a whole bunch of information, but what they have here is that they want us to be able to render a page. They're saying best practices is to render at least the above the fold content under 1 second. Now, yeah, I mean, that is a stretch. I mean, remember when we first ran our test, we were running at what was it, 6.9 to 12 seconds on average. That's my web host. And we have a 5.3 megabyte file. How can we get to this to under a second? And well, first off, the above the fold content they're referring to, as soon as the page loads, this is what we see above the fold. Um, how can we get this whole thing to go under a second? Well, like I said, that is a stretch, but we have an incredibly valuable tool in our arsenal that could help us considerably with this. Now, whether or not you saw this before, there is a jQuery plugin or function you may have seen called LazyLoad. Like all functionality, this isn't the only one. What LazyLoad does, let's see where they have an example. They have an example here. Let me just Google something. LazyLoad examples. Um, Here we go. So what it is that it won't load an image, so it's not even going to download the image until you scroll down there. You see how these images, you see how they load pretty quick, but if I go quickly, they have these little, waiting signs over there. Well, there you go. What this does for us is if we, instead of us loading all of the content down here, which, you know what, potentially the visitor may not even look at, completely anyway, we're just going to load what's in the visible portion first, which is always going to be, we'll leave the top fold alone, but everything from the bottom down, all these images, I only want to load if the user scrolls down to them. So by only loading these things when the user visits them, not only do we make our page faster, performance-wise, but if we're not using that bandwidth for assets they're not getting to, then from a business perspective, if you're working like at a big company, we're saving money. So saving money is a good thing. You could always ask your boss that. More money, more money in, less money spent, always good. So let's get to it. The plugin we're using is this guy, LazyLoad. Plenty of other options. You know, there's always a million options, but this one is a classic. And actually, look at this fork. Fork means that someone started just to sort of insight on options. When someone forks a project instead of contributing to the project, it means that they made a copy of the project and started doing development work that was not along the development path that the author intended. So 896 people forked the project. I'm not saying all of these are viable options as alternatives, but just to give you an idea of how many people considered altering LazyLoad. Anyhow, okay, so I have LazyLoad downloaded on my desktop. Here it is. I have it as a zip file, and like all good plugins, the standard way to install a plugin, we're gonna pop it in our JavaScript folder, in our JS folder. I'll get rid of the zip file, and we're going to check out what we need to do as far as installing it. It's jQuery dependent. Cool. We have jQuery. The long and short of it is you have to link the script to your document to load it in there, and then you have to initialize it, right? So let me do just that. We'll go to the index.html. Let me go here. I'll scroll down, and I'll put it right underneath, right? I put it right after jQuery and right before my custom guy. And we're just doing this jQuery LazyLoad.js. Great. Let's see now. Let me next, oops, I got some unnecessary windows open. Let me now see, what do I need? I got to put this function into my JS. Now, even without me reading the detailed instructions over here, I see what this is saying is that this is going to target an image with the class lazy. And right above it, look at that, it gives me an example of that, so I know what I need to do. Let's see. So let me open up my JavaScript folder, my main rather. Pop it in here, and I'm just going to copy and paste. I'm sure there's some cool options that this plugin has. I don't really need them. Where am I going to put it? I'll probably, you know what, let me put it right at the very beginning of my document. I don't know that it matters, but I'm thinking that this is one of the first things I want to load anyway before anything happens, just to prevent the downloading of the assets. Honestly, quite honestly, I think I'm just making that up. I think that's how it works. If I really wanted to investigate, I could know for sure, but just intuition tells me to do that. When I look at my index, so now it says, here is what you have to change. It says that you must alter your image tags, right? Address the image to be put into data original attributes. So essentially, for one, we have to add the lazy class to it. And the next thing is we have to remove the source, because if we leave source at the HTML, the browser is just going to pop it in there anyway. So data original is what we're going to link to, because this is what triggers LazyLoad. So that means that we're not really going to have HTML images in there. I mean, we are, but you know what I mean? Those are only going to be loaded later on into our script. So now, I know that as far as my my featured content, the really big stuff, I want that to load immediately. That's my top fold content. And so that'll be left alone. But what I do want to be lazy loaded is everything else underneath it. So here's a little trick for you. I mean, I don't want to say a trick. It seems like I don't want to have to add the class to this like how many hundreds, 103 or 106 elements, and change all that. So I'm just going to use the magic of copy of find and replace. So here I am. I'm going to copy this section of stuff. I'm just going to open it in a new document, so I just have it standing out here like so. And I know that I'm going to replace image source, the SRC, with because this is not in there, so I'll replace all that stuff. So here, I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to do a find and replace. I know the shortcut key, but if you go replace, let's see. Yeah, so replace, I always use the shortcut key over here, but that's how you do it. Actually, this looks, yeah, there we go. This is how I do it. So I'm looking for source, cool, and then I want to replace it with lazy class. So yeah, the lazy class and the data original. Before I hit go on it, the reason I brought this out to another document instead of doing it straight in my master document is I'm a human. I mess things up all the time, right? So let me just play it safe and move it out and sort of like one extra step of safety before I screw something up and cost myself hours of work. I know this is going to work, place, but I don't ever want to assume, you know what I mean? That just messes stuff up. So here we go, and now we have it. Let's just double check, compare our stuff to the instructions. Really, half the battle, or the majority of the battle with any plugin is following the instructions to the T. Image, class lazy, data original, there it is, and then we didn't set up a height and whatever, that's fine. So we're ready to go. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put it in here. Let me replace this. What I got in here now. So right up to the releases. I'll save it now. Let me see how this is gonna look for you. There, let's see what this looks like in browser. It's hard to tell locally. Let me just try to go right to the bottom, but you sort of see when you're locally a little bit of gray before they load. That's it actually working. You really see it in action once you upload it to your web host, because then it takes a little bit longer to do. You don't have to do that now. I did it just for the sake of you guys seeing it. I don't want you to have to wait. But so check it out. I'm going to refresh the page. Yeah. So here we go, and let me give it a refresh. Cool. And now, if I click here and I go, let's go all the way down to foreign. Oh, you know what? I think, you know what's happening? This is cached, I think, because I gave it another go. You see how, okay. You know what I'm doing? Here, I'm going to show you another little trick that you can't really see through the video. If I press down the shift key and I refresh this, it gives it a refresh, a cache-free refresh. So now if I go here and go down to foreign, we should sort of see. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. You guys saw that little gray thing. Things are just moving relatively quick. But really, the proof is not so much in what you see visually, because you may have, lightning fast internet. Let's go to the real judge, and that's our inspector and the network tab, right? So now when I do the network tab, this is going to be really cool. Google said that we want to keep optimized for mobile. We want to keep the page under a second, at least the top fold stuff. So if we give this a refresh, wow, look at that. Remember what we started with? We started at like 6.9. I told you I saw up to 12 seconds. We are down at 1.79 seconds. And keep in mind that we're not even transferring all of our content over here. You see what we're doing here? This is just 693 kilobytes, because it's not loading all that other content, which, I mean, when we started, it was 5.3 megabytes. We optimized our images considerably, which I would cut it down at least 2 megabytes. But just LazyLoad alone, really kicking butt. So now when we're scrolling down this way, now you could see, you see how it's happening now? So this is loading it now. But needless to say, incredible optimization over here with a jQuery plugin. And we are down. See, now it's starting to download everything and sort of getting a little bit bigger. But it's doing it in time as opposed to all at once. And it's only downloading the content that we're actually delivering to the user.